These secret societies are linked, and they have an oath that they swear to. It's called, I'll bring up a copy. You can get this on the internet. It's called the Secret Society Covenant. Let me read some of these to you. You can get a copy on the internet, but let me read a couple of these to you, and then let's marry it up to a couple of the things that are happening in the world. And remember, I'm reading something that is the oath of agreement. And they will be blanketed by poisons everywhere they turn. The poisons will be absorbed through their skin and mouths. They will destroy their minds and their reproductive system. We will keep their lifespan short and their minds weak while pretending to do the opposite, showing false healing and support. We will use our exclusive knowledge of science and technology in subtle ways so they will never see what's happening or how we are using it. Poisons are good for using fun, images, musical tones and media that we control. We will teach them that poisons are good for using fun, images, musical tones and media that we control. Now there are thousands of reports that you can get on the web concerning HAARP, H-A-A-R-P, and concerning the chemtrails, which all governments are told to tell you that they don't exist, that it's a conspiracy. Well, I can assure you, as I've shown you in my previous report, I even gave you the patents of the chemtrails and the HAARP. Now, rather than go into a lot of other reports, this is from InfoWars, and he has selectively given a complete and total who is involved in these global warming manipulations and global warming nonsense, because there is no global warming. We are actually in a global cooling. If anybody wants to check that out, well, there's plenty of sites that you can check that out. And so far as the chemtrails are concerned, and the reason why they've been doing the chemtrails and how long they've been doing it for, just have a look at this report.
The proposal to disperse sulfur dioxide in an attempt to reflect sunlight was discussed in a September 2008 London Guardian article titled Geoengineering the Radical Ideas to Combat Global Warming, in which Ken Caldera, a leading climate scientist based at the Carnegie Institution in Stanford, California, promoted the idea of injecting the atmosphere with aerosols. It was the Stanford Research Institute that certified in 1964 weaponization of weather through chemtrails and other systems under Dr. Ben Livingston, who first blew the whistle on our show. One approach is to insert scatterers into the atmosphere, states the article. Caldera cites an idea to deploy jumbo jets in the upper atmosphere and deposit clouds of tiny particles there, such as sulfur dioxide, dispersing around one.
Now remember, what you're watching here is in line with what the Covenant talked about with the secret societies. That is, all of the secret societies, including the Illuminati, the Bilderberg, the Freemasons, the Masons, the Club of Rome, etc., Fabian Society. All of them are involved in a covenant to execute this nonsense and this evil over the world.
1 million tons of sulfur dioxide per year across 10 million square kilometers of the atmosphere would be enough to reflect away sufficient amounts of sunlight, he wrote. Experiments similar to Caldera's proposal are already being carried out by the U.S. government-backed scientists, such as those at the U.S. Department of Energy, DOD, Savannah River National Laboratory in Aiken, South Carolina. We have links to all of this. Who in 2009 began conducting studies which involved shooting huge amounts of particulate matter, in this case porous walled glass microspheres, into the atmosphere. The project is closely tied to the idea by Nobel Prize winner Paul Crutzen, who proposed sending aircraft 747s to dump huge quantities of sulfur particles into the far reaches of the stratosphere to cool down the atmosphere. In 2008, scientist Tim Flannery also warned that mankind might need to pump sulfur into the atmosphere to survive, adding that sulfur, giant gas sulfur, could be inserted into the Earth's atmosphere to keep out the sun's rays and slow global warming, a process called global dimming. And funny, since they started this in 1995, you can go look where they started the test. Not test, it's a global program, bigger than Manhattan Project, that the Earth has dimmed 22%. In fact, while I'm searching that, I don't think Paul linked to it, type in global dimming, and then click on BBC, and it says 22% over Europe, and then 30% in other areas of the world. But overall, it's over 20. Continuing, such programs merely scratch the surface of what is likely to be a gargantuan and overreaching black budget funded project to geoengineer the planet with little or no care for the unknown environmental consequences that could engender. Well, it was admitted to be national security in the 90s when they did this. Given that sulfur emissions cause global dimming, is it any wonder, oh, Paul did link to it, I thought I didn't read that the emergence of the chemtrails phenomenon coincided with the average 22% drop in sunlight reaching the Earth's surface. What is known about what happens with the environment is loaded with sulfur dioxide is bad enough, since the compound is the main component of acid rain, which according to the EPA causes acidification of lakes and streams and tributaries to damage of trees at high elevation, for example, red spruce trees above 2,000 feet, and trees are down all over Hawaii, all over California.
I realise what he's just told you there, that it's causing acidity in the local streams and rivers. And of course, that is also the reason why you're losing the fish life.
High elevation, for example, red spruce trees above 2,000 feet, and trees are down all over Hawaii, all over California, all over everywhere. And many, and the arborists and experts are out saying it's aluminum and stuff, and many sensitive forest soils. In addition, acid rain accelerates the decay of building materials and paints, inducing irreplaceable buildings, statues, and sculptures that are part of the nation's cultural heritage. That's nothing compared to our brains, ladies and gentlemen. That's the real crime here. The health effects of bombarding the skies with sulfur dioxide alone are enough to raise serious questions about whether such programs should even be allowed to proceed. The following health effects are linked with sulfur: neurological effects and behavioral changes, disturbance of blood circulation, heart damage, effects on the eyes and eyesight. But bigger than that, this is about testing a global secret program to test agents and cadres by spying on their phone lines to see who will be part of other programs to spray chemical and biological agents that are more deadly, which we know are also been declassified tens of thousands of times, generally by fixed-wing aircraft at low altitudes. This is a government that takes foster kids and radiates them to death on record. Oh, but they wouldn't do this, though. Continuing. Reproductive failure, this is what sulfur does. Damage to immune systems, stomach and gastrointestinal disorder, damage to liver, kidney functions, hearing defects, disturbance of the hormonal and metabolic system, problems with the skin and dermatology, suffocation and lung embolism. Now, that's nothing. Because then page after page gets into aluminum, it gets into, oh my God, oh boy, it's bad. According to the Lintech website, laboratory tests with test animals have indicated that sulfur can cause serious vascular damage in the veins of the brains, the heart, and the kidneys, especially when inhaled. These tests also have indicated that certain forms of sulfur can cause damage and birth defects in babies. Mothers can even carry sulfur poisoning over to their children through mother's milk. Finally, sulfur can damage the internal enzyme systems of animals. Even pro-geoengineering scientist Mark Watson admits that injecting sulfur into the atmosphere could lead to acid rain, ozone depletion, or weather pattern disruption. And again, they just say, oh yeah, we've been doing some tests for the Earth. Nothing to do with that. Rutgers University meteorologist Alan Roebuck also created computer simulations indicating that sulfur clouds could potentially weaken the Asian and African summer monsoons, reducing rain that irrigates the food crops of billions of people. State Department Memorandum 200. This is all about population reduction. Imagine if we triggered a drought and famine while trying to cool the planet, Roebuck told a geoengineering conference last year. Ha ha ha. Yeah, we tried to cool the planet and shut off the Africans' water, or the Texans' water. The Canada-based Action Group on Erosion, Technology, and Concentration has called for such experiments to be shut down. The experiment is only phase one of a much bigger plan that could have devastating consequences. And what has Bill Gates invested $5 billion in? He has invested $5 billion in deploying all of this. He wants government contracts, including large changes in weather patterns such as deadly droughts, the group said in a written statement. Fred Singer, president of the Science Environmental Policy Project and a skeptic of man-made global warming theories, warns that the consequences of tinkering with the planet's delicate ecosystems could have far-reaching dangers. Why are you worried? Our own government and the Russians as well detonated high-powered H-bombs in the upper atmosphere, blowing holes in it in the 60s. Why stop? They're playing God. Don't get in their power trip's way.
As you can see, they're playing God, and they think they can take the place of the Creator God. And also you saw in the covenant of the secret societies, if there's one thing that they are frightened of, that is the power of the Creator God Yahweh.
If you do this on a continuous basis, you could depress the ozone layer and cause all kinds of other problems that people would rather avoid, said Singer. Well, like cutting carbon dioxide plants breathe? Don't tell the globalists that. Even Greenpeace chief UK scientist, a staunch advocate of man-made global warming explanation, Doug Parr, has slammed attempts to geoengineer the planets as outlandish and dangerous. Stephen Schneidler of Stanford University, who proposed a bizarre plan to send spaceships into the upper atmosphere that would be used to block out the sun, admits that geoengineering could cause conflicts between nations if geoengineering projects go wrong. Oh, yes. As we reportedly highlighted, numerous universities and government agencies have been conducting studies in the field of geoengineering for years. Well, of course, the Pentagon could control hurricanes, Stanford Research Institute certified by 1964. But, it doesn't matter. Here's Wikipedia. They say it's a conspiracy theory. Wikipedia still says it's a conspiracy theory that global government's being set up, even as it's admitted. I'm not going to have time to read all of this. It's so huge. One arm of this system, the Atmospheric Radiation Measurement Arm Program, was created in 1989 with funding from the U.S. Department of Energy, DOE, Department of Defense, Department of Energy, and is sponsored by the DOE's Office of Science and Management by the Office of Biological and Environmental Research. But that's okay that we have links to the government admitting it, because they say it's a conspiracy at Wikipedia. Again, announcing anything the government doesn't want out, even if it's admitted in plain view, is not allowed, because they control reality. They said so. They're the government. Oh, yeah, Wikipedia, sure. One of ARM's programs, called Indirect and Semi-Direct Aerosol Campaign, is aimed at measuring cloud simulations and aerosol retrievals. And they test the aluminum dioxide and everything else in the sky, and they've got the patents on mixing it in with the jet fuel. Another program under the Department of Energy's Atmospheric Science Program is directed towards developing comprehensive understanding of the atmospheric process. Oh, it just goes on and on with all the admissions and the global dimming, and the Council on Foreign Relations calling for global, unilateral, whether you like it or not, global weather manipulation. It's about the global bankers. Goldman Sachs has come out. And others, and they're developing on the Chicago Mercantile, where if you don't pay your IMF and World Bank bills, third world country, they shut your water off with this.
Now, we have, in all of the countries, and in particular in Australia, we have grey skies, and we have the bees that are just about killed right off. And of course, there are no migratory birds coming from the north to the southern hemisphere, as we showed you in the previous report. And of course, you can hear from this report that's also happening over in America.
All the leaves are brown and the sky is gray. Even in the summer now here in Texas. There aren't as many insects around the country as there were a few years ago. The bees are all dying. Some areas they're all dead. They're genetically splicing every species, playing God, and then lecturing us all day about how we need to pay Al Gore and Lord Rothschild and others carbon tax money. And this article Paul put together, I contributed some, so he stuck my name on there. He gets into the Council on Foreign Relations, Geoengineering Workshop on Unilateral Planetary Scale Geoengineering, where they talked about chemtrailing. They don't call it that. They call it geoengineering. And, of course, it's exactly what the conspiracy theorists tested 15, 16, 17 years ago. Then they've got KSLA News. They've got universities and the government of Louisiana. They've all gone up and done their own test and said, yes, barium salts, aluminum dioxide, sulfur, at levels in some cases hundreds of times safe, but generally, let's go over it. A KSLA TV investigation found that substances that fell to Earth from a high-altitude chemtrail contain high levels of barium, 6.8 ppm, and lead, 8.2 ppm, as well as trace amounts of other chemicals, including arsenic, chromium, cadmium, selenium, and silver. Of these, all but one are metals. Some are toxic, while several are rarely or ever found in nature. It goes on to say in the newscast that barium, which is in research is the hallmark of chemtrails, they found the samples were, again, more than 6 times the toxic level set by the EPA. And they've got reports out of poison control. They've got university studies, state studies. And a lot of scientists are going, yeah, there is something going on. What are you doing? And it's exactly what's being done on these programs. And it's huge. Again, ladies and gentlemen, there's more going on than Justin Bieber.
Now, years ago, I gave a report after we tested the rainwater out of the sky, which was way over 47 parts per million in dissolved salts of metal. This is a report that we gave back then.
Now, this is a report about terrorism. Who do you think are the biggest terrorists on this earth today? Yeah, we're talking about the World Health Organization, we're talking about the UN, we're talking about NATO, CFR, Trilateral Commission. These you're going to find, we've already shown you, they are the biggest terrorists in the world. And they are under the cover of reputable organisations. But there's one thing about liars, there's one thing about their lies. Sooner or later, they do get found out. Now, we know about the HAARP, H-A-A-R-P, and I call them the clouds of white death. And they are clouds of white death in the sky. Go out every day now and you'll see these clouds of white death over your head. And they back this up with chemtrails. The two of them are causing the clouds of white death. And I'll tell you why. We waited for certain rain to come as a result of their HAARP activity and their chemtrails. Then we tested the water, and you're going to remember a clip which I'm going to show you in a moment or two. But we took that water also to a couple of universities, and with a couple of scientist friends of mine, we got that water tested by none other than the government laboratory. Now, we got that paper back, and I can show you a copy of that, and I've got it here in my hand. This is a copy of the water that we got tested by the government, and you're going to get the shock of your life when you see what was in the water that came out of the sky. Come with me on this report, please. You ask the government, what's the chemtrails doing? What's the HAARP activity in the sky doing? And they give you a fob-off answer. They tell you that it's national security or it's classified information. Will you take this information, take this time-lapse film to the Department of Meteorology and see what they identify these clouds at? I'll give you $100 if they give you a truth. Classified or national security, it doesn't matter. They have no right to poison the air we breathe and the water we drink. Have a look at this. And I've got a gauge here that can measure everything that we need to measure, and we want to measure any parts per million of anything that's of any elements or ions, metals in this water, because it should be free. Now let's see. Here it is. You won't believe this. So I'll put the camera on this. You won't believe this. This is 28.9 parts per million. 28.9 parts per million when it should be no more than 1.5. Heavy metals poison the human body. chronic fatigue, splitting headaches, upset stomach. The central nervous system is affected, causing spells of dizziness, insomnia, poor concentration abilities, lack of muscular coordination. Now, to compare what is regarded as a safe level for these elements, these minerals, guess where we got the figures from? That's right out of the World Health Organization, their guidelines. In the water that we tested that came out of the sky, it had, with, for example, 780 times was over the safe level of aluminium. And they can tell you there that it causes a wide range of neurological ailments and Alzheimer's disease. Arsenic was found, and it was 593 times over the safe level of arsenic. Remember, this is from water coming out of the sky. This is from rainwater. Look what it causes. Headaches, confusion, sleepiness, convulsions. Arsenic poisoning causes vomiting, diarrhea, kidney, skin cancer, scrotal cancer, liver cancer, cancer of the lymphatic system and lung cancer. And there will be blood in the urine, severe cramping muscles, hair loss, stomach pain, and more convulsions, coma and death. Now, if you suspect...
Now, have a look at all of those things that are happening to the world today. We took some research out of the 1950 and 1951. The amount of people that were going into a hospital for any of those allergies, any of those sicknesses and illnesses and cancer was less than 5%. Today, it is over 90%. I'm going to tell you something in this report as we go further in it. The churches and the rabbis are up to their nose, they're up to the necks as partners with the United Nations. Yes, they are. You're going to get the shock of your life. And you've just read here in this oath of affirmation that they're going to use the mainstream religion.